Welcome to the ultimate food guide to Copenhagen. If you're a foodie looking for the best eats in the Danish capital, you're in for a treat. From traditional Danish smørrebrød to hidden street food gems, Copenhagen is packed with flavors waiting to be explored. And to guide us through this culinary journey, we have a very special guest, Agnethe. Agnethe has been a tour guide in Copenhagen for over 10 years and she knows the city inside out. She's here to take us through the best food spots, from local markets to must try restaurants. So let's dive into Copenhagen's food scene and discover what makes the city a paradise for foodies.
Hello, everyone. My name is the Danish version of it is Agnethe. That might confuse you with the way it's spelled. And I'm actually a native to Copenhagen. I got into tour guiding 10 years ago. I have a background in Danish literature and history. I've lived here all my life. So I know pretty much everything there is to know. And here we are 10 years later, still doing it. My personal favorite is called Torvehallerne. It's located in a city center, so it's a very convenient location for breakfast or lunch. Not a dinner spot because they close early. Lunch is popular, and locals like to too. It's a bit of it's both farmers market and a place where you can buy groceries like butcher shops, seafood stores, lots of cafes and street food stalls where you can buy food. It's Danish specialties mixed with food from Europe and outside of Europe as well. And the quality of the food is generally very good. For those who like the street food experience, I would say go to Reffen. Reffen is a bit troublesome to get to unless you have a bike or feeling adventurous and want to try taking a bus. The train does not go out there. And it's a bit remote, but a really cool spot. With street food stalls that are located inside old containers. So it has a very kind of cool look to it, and it has waterfront access. It also has one really good crappie bar. In Copenhagen, there's one out there from one of our most famous crappie brands, Michelin. Otherwise, we have everything from 3-star Michelin restaurants. We're known for the highest number of Michelin star restaurants in Northern European countries. We have world-famous restaurants, the NOMA Restaurant, but it's closing down temporarily. So the next couple of years, you unfortunately can't visit NOMA, but there's lots of other good restaurants as well. Food scene is a bit spread out. I would more say actually avoid to eat in the Nyhavn District. So even though the Nyhavn District is beautiful location, worth a visit, most of the food there is average. They cater for tourists, and locals usually wouldn't go to eat there. I wouldn't go to eat there. And I always recommend people to go and eat where the locals are. There are lots of very nice bakeries and cafes, and the bakeries in city center are fantastic. You can't go wrong with any of the bakeries. There are a few food items you should try, some from the bakeries. For example, a Danish pastry. You can get it in a lot of local cafes. We also have a flourishing cafe culture. We are coffee addicts in Copenhagen, so it's easy to find lots of local coffee spots. Avoid Starbucks because their local options are better and cheaper. We have a Scandinavian version of Starbucks called Espresso House that I also think is really average and not really worth the price. For lunch, you should have the open face sandwich. Torvehallerne has good options for that, but there are also lots of restaurants that have really amazing options. One place I really recommend is the Royal Playhouse, close to Nyhavn, right on the harbor front. You can eat well in Nyhavn, you definitely can, but don't go in the colored houses, actually. One local place, you can actually see it in the picture. So if you look on not on the side of me, behind me with all the colored houses, but the other side, you can see it's in the shadow, and there's a little white boat in the picture. And actually, that's an amazing spot for aubergine sandwich. Great lunch spot. The locals nominated it this year for one of the best spots to have traditional Danish lunch, which is a big thing here in Denmark, to have the open-faced sandwich, or as we call it, Smørrebrød. And that boat, the restaurant is called Judy, spelled Judie. Book in advance. Especially if you're more than 2 people, you should plan ahead for your dining options because a lot of people come to Copenhagen to experience the food scene. It can be tricky to find good places to eat. They sell out quickly in summertime. Copenhagen is known for the quality and the innovation of older local food traditions. We mostly have just a few types of food or dishes that I would say are must-tries, and one is the Danish pastry that I mentioned before, and you can go to any local bakery, and a lot of the hotels will serve it for breakfast. If you try it once, you might want more. And then you can easily find bakeries or little local cafes that have it. We have really world-class bakeries where you can indulge in some fantastic pastries. One that's become very popular recently because it was an American TV show is called Heart Bakery. And that place is amazing for pastry. I recommend the one Heart Bakery near the Opera House because then you also have a fantastic view while you enjoy a coffee and pastry. The Danish pastry, I often get the question, what is it? There isn't just one pastry. There's varieties that are super popular among locals. You can find easily everywhere, and that's also what the cafes will have. And that's the cinnamon bun and the cardamom bun. Sometimes I call them a cinnamon snail because it's snail-shaped. They taste fantastic. We have to bite more to stay fit because we eat so many pastries. Some selling bakes are fantastic. You should go to a bakery because that's where they're the freshest and they will have the widest selection. And they can be up to 10 different types of pastries. Usually bakeries have a little less than that, maybe 4 to 7, depending on the time of day you come. I get them in the morning. Typical Danish breakfast can be fun, but we keep it simple. If you want a Danish pastry, pair it with some bread, and that could be rye bread, but the popular item in Copenhagen, which tastes amazing, the sourdough bun. A sourdough bun you get with butter and cheese. Normally, there are options for jam if you have problems with lactose, but Danish cheese is worth trying. It's a very salty cheese, very popular right now. It's called a BMO, short for bun with cheese. Bolle med ost is how it's called in Danish. Yeah, so that's what we called it in Copenhagen. It has its own term now. And you get that with coffee or tea. The cafes and bakeries also have healthy organic juices. Nice to try with breakfast if you're not a tea or coffee person. For lunch, get the open-faced sandwich. Now be aware if for people who have gluten intolerance, it's a bit tricky because an open-faced sandwich consists of a piece of bread with some topping. There are restaurants nowadays that offer gluten-free veg, but this is something you have to plan a bit. You have to ask in advance, and not everyone does it. So people with dietary restrictions have to do a bit more research and can't necessarily just go somewhere and get the food. Open-faced sandwich it's also not maybe the easiest thing to eat if you are vegetarian or vegan because it's traditional food. And traditional Northern European food usually contains a lot of meat and seafood and have so many vegan or vegetarian options. It is getting better. There's usually always something that you can get. So for example, if you are vegetarian, I recommend getting a open-faced sandwich with potatoes because it's very traditional, tastes good. If you like potatoes and you're still having the very traditional food. Then there are now usually some items for vegans as well, but be aware you will have a small selection. If you don't have dietary restrictions, knock yourself up. There are many options. Huge variety of open-faced sandwich, so you can get almost anything your heart desires, but still with a local tradition attached to it. A lot of meat and fish paired with sauces and herbs, and something that makes the whole thing into a very nice meal. A Danish hot dog is traditionally Danish. Ironically, it's a hot dog. We've had it for the last century, so now we think it's ours. We have our own variety, and it's really good. It's usually the sausage is made from Danish pork meat, which is generally quite high quality, and you put special toppings on it, and some of them you can opt out of. For example, if you don't like onions, you can just ask. So they'll make it the way on the spot, and they'll make it the way you want it. The hot dog is an item that is our only traditional street food. So it's in all the big public places like the shopping street, like Nyhavn. City Hall Square has the two. So it's very easy to find. For dietary restrictions, there are organic hot dog stands that also cater to people who, for example, don't eat pork meat, or if you're vegan or vegetarian, they have options for that too. So there's even a vegan sausage. So they have a little variety. And otherwise, there are these seasonal specialties. For example, Christmas. We're starting Christmas season now. For Danes, it's usually a lot of Christmas beer. Beer is very big here. We are the home of Carlsberg, third largest beer company in the world. They say probably the best beer in the world. Craft beer companies that are based in or near Copenhagen. If you're adventurous, if you like to go on beer adventure in Copenhagen, you can actually find several local breweries that have brew pubs attached to it. You can drink the beer on the location it's made. You can ask for samples in most craft beer bars. So that's very popular among locals. But the top Christmas things to try is the Scandinavian mulled wine. You find it in other Nordic countries as well. We call it Gløgg, starts with a G. And in November and December, it's everywhere in Copenhagen. It's basically heated red wine, sometimes white, with almonds, raisins, and spices. Very strong. Definitely not for kids, but it's warm shop, nice when it's warm weather. So it's part of our cozy culture. If you get it in a cafe or bar, sometimes they give you Danish Christmas butter cookies. Or traditionally you eat it with a fluffy pastry like a pancake, called pancake balls in English. The Danish name's impossible to say if you're not Danish. It's called æbleskiver. I think it's too pancakes, the vendors will know. They don't have it everywhere. It can be a little tricky to find, but I see more and more cafes in city center that now start to offer it. You eat it with strawberry jam and powdered sugar. Dip the pastry. So here for Christmas, fried or oven fried pork belly with red cabbage and potatoes is a traditional meal. This should come in February. Don't recommend visiting in February, but if you do, despite the weather being quite bad, there will be all the bakeries serve a special pastry or bun, cream or jam inside, because we have a sort of annual carnival for kids. It's a bit like the French Mardi Gras. That happens in February, and you eat a special bun with that you get from the bakeries. Another special thing to try is Danish porridge for breakfast. So oatmeal porridge is a very traditional thing to eat here in Denmark. And there is a local cafe chain that makes amazing oatmeal porridge. They are in the Torvehallerne food market I mentioned earlier. And if you don't want bread for breakfast, you want to eat something traditional, you go there and have their oatmeal porridge. You can decide yourself what you want, what toppings you want on the porridge, or you can have what they recommend, which is amazing. Get it with caramel sauce, almonds, and apples, and it tastes good. Danish food is mainly, traditionally, it's potatoes and cabbage, root vegetables, meat, fish. Restaurants today will try and experiment a bit with food traditions and make it less heavy than Nordic food traditionally is, and actually they really bring out the taste in it. But the food scene is very dominated on meat and fish, but there are more restaurants that find vegetarian options. We have many restaurants, and we keep getting new restaurants. One place I really like is called POPL, POPL. It's fairly new, opened during COVID, and started because of COVID. It is the world-famous restaurant NOMA, who decided to open a burger joint. Burgers are American style, but very popular in Denmark. We have lots of our own burger chains and restaurants above McDonald's in quality. The food markets that I mentioned before, Torvehallerne and Reffen, are really cool places and have great food options. Reffen is great if you want diverse food. And if you don't want to just eat Danish food, So it's very popular among locals. They have food from all over the world. So Reffen is great for that. Otherwise, Automat starts with an A, which is located in several places around Copenhagen. And they serve traditional Danish food, and it's a place I would like to go for lunch. They have amazing open-faced sandwiches. One of their best locations, especially if you want a nice view with your food, is the Royal Playhouse, close to Nyhavn. The Copenhagen Opera House, also close to city center, right outside city center, on the other side of Copenhagen Harbor. The Copenhagen Opera House have a restaurant too, Almanak, and that is really nice food. It's Danish-style food, but they mix it with other food traditions. Be aware that the Danish restaurant scene, the Danish food scene, there are some trends that most restaurants follow. So often the restaurants will have fixed meals where the chef decides what he or she thinks you should eat. And so if you have any dietary restrictions, you actually need to call the restaurant in advance, and it can accommodate you with that because they have these set menus. Or the food scene is pricey because of the quality of ingredients and skills of the chefs. We have world-class chefs here in Copenhagen, so that of course affects the price.
That was a delicious journey through Copenhagen's best eats. Which of these food spots are you adding to your must-try list? Let us know in the comments. And if you're from Copenhagen, we'd love to hear your favorite food places too. So drop your recommendations below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more amazing travel and food guides from around the world. See you in the next adventure.